Boo. It's that time of year again. Halloween is quickly approaching, and what better way to celebrate the season than with some video games? Now, I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to horror games. I'll play them once in a while, but usually when I want to play a game, I just want to relax. The real world gives me enough anxiety all the time without jump scares. But with that in mind, there's still tons of not so scary games to enjoy Spooktober with. Here are 10 of them. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is pretty much a modern day Castlevania game. In fact, it comes from the mind of Konami veteran Koji Igarashi, who worked on tons of Castlevania games over the years, including Symphony of the Night. This is basically a spiritual successor to that game. It's a 2.5D Metroidvania where you'll be playing as one of two main characters as you explore a demon-filled castle that was literally summoned from hell. Along the way, you'll level up, obtain better equipment, and learn a variety of powerful spells. I'm only a few hours into the game, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It's a tried and true formula that's still a blast to play to this day as you explore the area, take on challenging bosses, and try to complete the map. There's some familiar inconveniences as well, like backtracking and limited save areas, but these are just things you come to expect in this type of game. The graphics look great and the soundtrack is pretty awesome as well. If you're a fan of Symphony of the Night, then you'll probably enjoy this one too. The similarities are beyond obvious. And if you prefer the more linear Castlevania games of old, then you might want to check out the other Bloodstained games, Curse of the Moon and Curse of the Moon 2. BRAWL is basically a Bomberman clone with an unsettling horror theme. I bought this game years ago when there wasn't a proper Bomberman game on PC. Today we have other options like Super Bomberman R, but this game often goes on sale for just a couple bucks and it offers some interesting features of its own. Up to 4 players can battle it out online or offline in a variety of multiplayer modes. You got your standard deathmatch style game types where you run around blowing each other up, but there's also some more interesting stuff like sumo and color domination. Each character has their own special abilities too, which adds a bit of variety to the gameplay. There's also the single player campaign that lets you experience each character's disturbing backstory. It sort of reminds me of the classic single player Bomberman games on the NES, which is a little slower and more methodical than the multiplayer action. Personally, I prefer a regular Bomberman game any day, but if you like the horror vibes, then there's a lot of fun to be had with BRAWL. Costume Quest is an adventure RPG from Double Fine Productions. It's Halloween and you're going trick-or-treating with your brother or sister depending on which character you choose. Unbeknownst to anyone, there are monsters all over your neighborhood. Your sibling gets kidnapped and you decide to save them. In order to do this, you'll have to gain access to different parts of the neighborhood and eventually the city by completing a number of quests. For the most part, you'll be exploring the neighborhood, talking to people, bashing everything you see with your trick-or-treat bag, looking for items, and trick-or-treating every house to either get candy or battle the monsters inside. The battle system takes the form of a traditional turn-based RPG with quick-time events. The cool part about entering battles is that your costumes actually come to life. Your cardboard robot costume becomes an actual giant robot that can launch its fist into enemies and fire missiles. There are several different costumes you can find throughout the game, and you can even recruit a friend early on to fight by your side. It's a fun, simple adventure that can be completed in a long afternoon. But if you want more, it comes with a free bonus campaign, and there's also a direct sequel available. If you're looking for something lighthearted with the kind of great writing that Double Fine's known for, you should definitely check out Costume Quest. Deathsmiles is a classic horizontal shoot-'em-up game from Cave. It takes place in a gothic fantasy setting where the forces of hell have been unleashed into the world. You play as one of 5 angels as you fly and shoot your way through a number of branching stages. It's definitely one of the most beginner-friendly shooters out there, so even if you're not typically into this kind of game, it's a great starting point to get you into the genre. Apart from its incredibly satisfying gameplay, what really sets this game apart from other shooters is its presentation. Angels, demons, pumpkins, giant cows, whatever the heck that thing is. There's just so much variety in the stage and enemy designs, and the whole supernatural setting is just so refreshing in a genre that's saturated with sci-fi and spaceships. This game has been around for quite some time and there are many ways to play it. You're seeing an older version of the game here, but it was recently ported to all current gen consoles, bundled together with its sequel. If you've never played Deathsmiles, you've been missing out, and now is a great time to give it a try. This video would have come out sooner if I hadn't gotten so darn addicted to Graveyard Keeper. If you enjoyed games like Stardew Valley, you'll probably really enjoy this one too. You play as an average Joe who's walking home one day and gets hit by a car. The next thing you know, you're in a strange place where you've been assigned to the role of the new Graveyard Keeper. You're forced to play along and manage the graveyard, all while trying to find a way to get back to your regular life in the world you came from. You'll befriend a talking skull and a bunch of nearby villagers who will give you quests. You can craft items, improve your graveyard, fight slimes, become a pastor, burn witches, raise crops and go fishing, and of course, take care of dead bodies. If you want to be a real creep, you can even use your resources to sell hamburgers to the village. I'll just let you use your imagination there. Honestly, there's so much to do in this game and it's just so addictive. It's a grind, but it's a really fun grind that will suck hours out of your real life. Definitely check it out. I guess you could call Little Misfortune an adventure game, but I think its developers labeled it best as an interactive story. You get to guide Little Misfortune, a sweet little girl who lives a terrible life, as she leaves home and follows a voice in her head. This voice promises eternal happiness if she does what it says. It also tells us that she's going to die. This all happens in the first few seconds of the game, so I'm not spoiling anything. You'll basically be spending the next 2 to 3 hours, which is approximately how long the game takes to complete, wondering if she's really going to die or if you can save her. You'll come across many opportunities to make important decisions that will have consequences later in the game. No matter what choices you make, there will always be consequences and the game will always rub it in your face. Terrible things always just seem to happen all around Misfortune, and you'll see some shocking events take place. It's amazing how the game manages to balance tragedy with comedy. Misfortune is just such a lovable character. She's brimming with positivity, bluntness, and childlike innocence, while the world around her is full of death, darkness, and pain. The writing and voice acting are top-notch and the art style is like a beautiful, disturbing children's book come to life. Avoid all spoilers and just go experience it for yourself. I've talked about Pumpkin Jack on this channel before and I'll probably do it again, just because I like it so much. It feels like a throwback to action platformers of the PS2 era, but with much better graphics. You play as Jack the Pumpkin King, Greedy Jack, a soul brought back from the dead to wage war against a righteous wizard and reclaim the world for evil. Yeah, you get to play as the bad guy. There's nothing particularly difficult or complex about it. You run, you jump, you hit stuff with your shovel, and you use your bird friend to attack faraway enemies. Occasionally, there's a puzzle to solve. There's even a minecart segment. Remember when games were like this? It's good old-fashioned platforming fun. I just love how everything looks in the game. It's dark but vibrant. Everything has a nice whimsical glow to it. And the music, sound effects, and voiceovers just scream Halloween cartoon special. It's a pretty short game. I finished it in under 5 hours, but it's definitely one I'll come back to. Maybe I'll make it a Halloween tradition. Stubbs the Zombie is a game that came out way back on the original Xbox. I don't think too many people played it. In case you missed it back then, you can play its remastered version now on current gen hardware. Here's another game where you get to play as a bad guy. It's a third-person action game where you're basically running all over the city and turning everyone else into zombies. You'll of course run into lots of opposition like the local police force, but there is strength in numbers, and lucky for you, every human you take down will become a zombie and fight by your side. Use your fellow zombies as shields and distractions while you flank your enemies from behind, or just blitz through with your undead mob and eat all the brains you can find. It's your call. The game is in many ways a product of its time, but it holds up for the most part. It's completely absurd with cheesy over-the-top comedy and gore all over the place. I never played the original Xbox version, but I'm glad I can enjoy this obscure gem today. Speaking of obscure games, I bet you haven't heard of this one. The Textorcist is a game unlike any other. It's a hybrid typing bullet hell game and it's pretty great. You play as an exorcist who takes it upon himself to investigate cases of demon possession around the city. Along the way, you'll uncover some nefarious business and try to put an end to it. This too is a very dark game that doesn't take itself seriously. The dialogue is off the wall, while blood and vomit are on every wall. The gameplay mechanics are what make this game so special though. I've never heard of another bullet hell typing game. I enjoy games like Typing of the Dead and Epistory, but this one makes your brain work a little harder. You have to somehow dodge bullets and type prayers at the same time. One hand is moving with the arrow keys while the other hand is typing scripture. All the while your eyes are trying to focus both on the bullets coming from the top of the screen and the words sitting at the bottom of the screen. Your brain and hands will be doing so much multitasking, it's just a lot harder than it looks. You gotta give this game credit for its originality, mashing up two unlikely genres in an interesting way. Finally, we have Witcheye. I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into here. I picked this game up on Steam for less than a couple bucks because it had positive reviews and I liked the look of it. It has some nice retro-inspired graphics and cool boss designs. Its soundtrack is on par with some of the 16-bit era's best tunes. What I immediately realized when I began playing it, however, is that it's a mobile game port. Which is fine, I guess. It doesn't have any microtransactions or junk like that, and the core game mechanics are pretty fun. You basically play as a witch that transforms into a big floating eyeball. You have to navigate through each level, tackling bad guys, avoiding hazards, collecting gems, and defeating bosses. As an eyeball, you roll with a continuous momentum and bounce off of everything. To change directions, you flick the analog stick or mouse in the direction you want to travel. You don't stop moving unless you press another button to stop. All of this is fine, and like I said earlier, I love the graphics and sound. The only problem is that the game was really designed with mobile in mind. The controls make more sense on a touchscreen. The levels are incredibly short, perfect for mobile gaming on the go. In the end, I just wish I had picked it up on mobile instead of PC. While I normally don't talk about mobile games on the channel, I'll recommend this one at its $2.99 asking price. Good mobile games without gacha gimmicks or microtransactions are hard to come by nowadays anyway. Witcheye is a rare gem in that regard. And there you have it, 10 not so spooky games to play this Halloween. I could have talked about so many others, but I guess those will have to wait for next year. If you have any recommendations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.